Look, I need to vent because I am literally shaking right now. I'm staring at a PDF on my laptop screen that might literally ruin my life. It's an invoice. Invoice number 4092. And at the bottom, in bold black letters, it says, total due $26,400. It's not from a lawyer. It's not a medical bill. It's from a woman named Brenda. She's the real estate agent who sat in my kitchen 8 months ago and swore to me, promised me that she was going to make me rich. She promised me a bidding war. She promised me record-breaking numbers. Instead, she has held my property hostage for 240 days. She has watched me bleed out my entire life savings paying a mortgage on an empty house. And now that I'm finally trying to fire her, she says I owe her 26 grand for her time. I'm Mike. I'm 34 years old, and 8 months ago, I thought I was the smartest guy in the room. I thought I had the real estate game figured out. Now, I'm sleeping on an air mattress in a rental apartment. My fiancé won't look me in the eye, and I'm about to be sued by the person I hired to save me. To understand how I got into this absolute nightmare, you have to understand where I was last November. Life was perfect. Honestly, it was almost too perfect. I had this rental property in Phoenix. I'd bought it 5 years ago before the market went crazy. It was a solid 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. Nothing fancy, just a standard suburban box. But it was in a neighborhood that was blowing up. My fiancée, Sarah, and I had just decided to make the big move. We were buying our forever home 2 towns over. The plan was simple. Sell the rental, take the equity, which I calculated was about 150 grand, and use it to pay for the wedding and put a massive down payment on the new place. It was basic math. It was supposed to be the easiest money I ever made. I did my due diligence. I didn't just hire the first person I saw. I interviewed 3 agents. The first 2 were exactly what you'd expect. Older guys, suits a little too big, binders full of data. The first guy, let's call him Mark, sat at my kitchen table and ran the comps. He was boring, but he was thorough. He told me, "Look, Mike, the market is shifting. Interest rates are ticking up. I think we list at 575. If we're lucky and we price it right, maybe we close at 585. I remember sitting there feeling disappointed. 575 was fine. It worked on paper. It would pay off the mortgage and cover the down payment, but it wasn't the jackpot I had built up in my head. I wanted 600. I felt like I deserved 600. And then Brenda walked in. Brenda was different. She didn't drive a Honda Accord like Mark. She pulled up in a G-Wagon. She didn't bring a binder full of spreadsheets. She brought an iPad Pro and a bottle of wine. She walked through the house for maybe 5 minutes. She didn't look at the AC unit. She didn't check the water heater. She talked about the vibes. She talked about the flow. She sat me down, poured us both a glass of wine, at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday, mind you, and asked me what the other agents said. I told her, Mark said 575. Brenda literally laughed. She put her hand on my arm, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "Honey, Mark is a dinosaur. He's scared of the market. He wants an easy sale, not a good sale. This house, with this light, with this location, this is a $650,000 listing all day long. $650,000. My heart actually skipped a beat. That was $75,000 more than Mark's estimate. That wasn't just wedding money. That was pay off my student loans money. That was buy a new truck money. I asked her, "Are you sure? That seems really high compared to the comps." She waved her hand like I was being silly. She said, "I'm the top producer in this county for a reason, Mike. I don't list houses to let them sit. I list them to set records. Do you want to sell fast or do you want to sell right?" I looked at Sarah. She was smiling. I was smiling. The greed took over completely. I didn't see an agent overpromising. I saw a winning lottery ticket. I signed the exclusive right to sell agreement right there. 3% commission to Brenda, 6-month term, auto-renewing. I didn't read the fine print. I was too busy calculating what I was going to buy with that extra 75 grand. I had no idea I had just signed my own death warrant. The first week was a rush. Brenda's team came in. She had a professional photographer, a drone guy, a staging consultant. The listing went live on a Thursday. I sat at my desk at work, refreshing Zillow every 10 minutes. The views were climbing. 100 views, 500 views, 1,200 views in 48 hours. This is it, I told Sarah. We're going to get a bidding war. We actually went out to a fancy dinner that Friday to celebrate. We spent $300 on sushi, toasting to Brenda, toasting to our genius decision to hire her. Monday came. I waited for the phone to ring. No offers. Tuesday. No offers. Wednesday. Brenda texted me. Slow start. Don't worry, everyone is waiting for the weekend open house. 3 weeks in, we finally got a bite. An offer came in. It was for $580,000. Now remember, Mark, the boring agent, had predicted exactly this number. 580 would have sold the house. I would have walked away with a profit. I would be free right now. But Brenda called me, and she was furious. This is an insult, she said. They're trying to lowball us because it's new on the market. Do not accept this, Mike. Do not let them bully you. I hesitated. I said, Brenda, 580 isn't bad. It covers everything we need. She cut me off. Mike, I can get you $640 minimum. Do you really want to throw away $60,000 because you're impatient? Do you want to look back and know you left that money on the table? She played me perfectly. She appealed to my ego. I rejected the offer. I told him to kick rocks. That couple bought a house down the street 3 days later. I didn't know it then, but that was the moment I sealed my fate. That was the exit ramp, and I drove right past it at 100 miles an hour. Then, the silence started. Month 2 rolled around. The views on Zillow flatlined. The showings stopped, and the bills started arriving. See, Sarah and I had already closed on our new house. We were carrying 2 mortgages. The plan was to sell the rental in 30 days, so we'd only have 1 month of overlap. But now, we were in month 2. I sat down to write the checks. Mortgage, $2,400. Utilities, $350. Insurance, $150. HOA fees, $100. Total monthly burn, $3,000. I wrote a check for $3,000 to cover the rental's carrying costs. That stung. That was money that was supposed to go into savings. Month 3 came. Another $3,000 check. That was $6,000 gone, just vaporized. Paying for air conditioning in an empty house that nobody wanted to buy. I called Brenda. Hey, what's going on? Her tone was different now. The honey and darling were gone. She sounded annoyed. The market is weird, Mike. Interest rates bumped up a 1/4 point. It scared the buyers. So what do? I asked. We need a price adjustment, just a small one. Let's go to $635. I was frustrated, but I agreed. We dropped the price, and absolutely nothing happened. By month 4, I became a nuisance to her. I could feel it. Brenda wasn't calling me with updates anymore. I was chasing her. I'd send a text at 4 p.m. on Tuesday asking for feedback from a showing, and I wouldn't hear back until Thursday morning. And the feedback was always vague. They didn't like the flow. They thought the kitchen was dated. Wait, dated? 4 months ago, she told me the kitchen was retro chic and a huge selling point. Now it's dated? She had moved on to new listings, fresh meat she could price gouge. My house was just stale inventory on her website to make her look busy. I started driving over to the empty house on weekends just to check on it. It's a weird feeling, standing in an empty house you own but can't sell. It smells like dust and failure. I found flyers from the last open house scattered on the floor. Brenda hadn't even bothered to clean them up. I looked at the sign-in sheet. It was blank. She had told me there was lots of traffic. The sheet said 0 names. The stress didn't stay at the rental property. It followed me home. Sarah and I had this joint savings account for the wedding. It had about 20 grand in it. In month 5, I had to dip into it. I didn't tell her at first. I thought, I'll pay it back once the house sells. It's just a temporary loan to myself. I transferred $3,000 to cover the mortgages, then another $3,000 in month 6. One night, Sarah was looking at wedding venues. She found this amazing place in Sedona. She showed me the brochure and said, "It's a little over budget, but with the house sale money coming, we can afford it, right?" My stomach dropped. I snapped at her. I just yelled, "We can't afford anything, Sarah. The house isn't selling." She looked at me like I was a stranger. She said, "Why are you yelling at me? You're the one who picked Brenda. You're the one who turned down the offer." That was the first night I slept on the couch. The house wasn't just draining my bank account. It was rotting my relationship from the inside out. Month 6. I demanded Brenda do something drastic. I told her, host a mega open house, cater it, advertise it, do your job. She sighed on the phone, like I was a toddler asking for a cookie before dinner. "Fine, Mike, we'll do a broker's open." I drove by the house that Saturday. I wanted to see the crowds. I wanted to see the line around the block. I pulled up, and there was one car. It wasn't Brenda's G-Wagon. It was a beat-up Honda Civic. I walked inside. Brenda wasn't there. There was a kid, maybe 22 years old, sitting on a folding chair in the living room, scrolling on TikTok. He didn't even look up when I walked in. "Where's Brenda?" I asked. "Oh, she's showing a luxury property in Scottsdale today," he mumbled. "She sent me to cover this one." I looked around. No catering. No music. Just this kid and a stack of business cards. The house was dirty. There were dead bugs in the entryway. I realized then she had given up. She wasn't trying to sell my house. She was just waiting for me to break. Month 7. I was now $21,000 in the hole on carrying costs. The wedding fund was decimated. I called Brenda, and I was practically begging. "Drop the price," I said. "Drop it to $575. The price Mark gave me 7 months ago." "If we do that," she said, "it looks desperate. Buyers will smell blood. It ruins the listing history." "I am desperate, Brenda. I am bleeding money." We dropped it to $599. And still, nothing. Because now, the listing history on Zillow looked like a crime scene. Listed at $650. Price dropped to $635. Price dropped to $625. Price dropped to $599. Buyers look at that and think, what is wrong with this house? They assumed it had mold or foundation issues or ghosts. The only thing wrong with the house was the greedy price tag we slapped on it 8 months ago. We hit month 8 last week. I did the math. I had spent nearly $27,000 keeping this zombie property alive. I couldn't do it anymore. I told Sarah, I'm firing her. I don't care what it takes. I'm taking it off the market and we're going to rent it out. We'll lose the equity, but at least we stopped the bleeding. I sent Brenda an email. "Brenda, effective immediately, I am terminating our representation agreement. Please remove the lockbox and take down the sign." I felt relief. I finally stood up for myself. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Brenda. "You can't cancel," she said. Her voice was ice cold. "The contract is for 6 months," I said. "It's been 8. "Read the renewal clause, Mike. It auto-renewed for another 6 months because we were actively negotiating that last price drop. You're mine until November." I saw red. "I am not yours. You're fired. If you don't take the sign down, I'm throwing it in the trash." "If you do that," she said, "I will bill you for my time." I laughed. I literally laughed at her. "Bill me? You work on commission, Brenda. You didn't sell the house. You get 0. That's how this works." "Check your email," she said, and she hung up. I refreshed my inbox. There it was, invoice number 4092. I opened it. My hands were shaking. She had itemized her life. Initial consultation, 2 hours at $280 an hour, $560. Market analysis strategy, 5 hours at $280 an hour, $1,400. Vendor coordination, 10 hours, $2,800. Client management, 25 hours, $7,000. Marketing fee, $5,000. Termination penalty, $5,000. She was charging me $26,400 for failing to sell my house. I called a lawyer friend of mine, terrified. Can she do this? He looked at the contract. He sighed. Mike, this is a nasty contract. There's a clause here buried in the early termination section. It says if the seller terminates without cause or refuses to sell at a marketable price, the agent is entitled to reimbursement for expenses and reasonable hourly compensation. But I have cause, I argued. She sucks. Can you prove she sucks? He asked. Did she list it? Yes. Did she market it? Yes. Technically, she did her job. You're the one refusing to lower the price to where the market is. I felt the blood drain from my face. I called Brenda back, begging. Brenda, I don't have 26 grand. I'm broke. You know I'm broke. And this is where she twisted the knife. This is where the nice, charismatic lady in the G-Wagon turned into a monster. Then let's sell the house, Mike. Today. Okay, I said. Let's go to 575. No, she said. That ship sailed 6 months ago. The house is stale. The market has cooled. If you want out of this invoice, we list at 455. I gasped. 455? Brenda, I owe 440 on the mortgage. After closing costs, I'd have to pay money to sell the house. That's the reality, she said. You're underwater, Mike. You got greedy. You ignored my advice to be aggressive early on, which was a lie, by the way. And now, this is what it's worth. Your house is a dump. The kitchen is ugly. The layout is bad. 455 is a gift. She was insulting the same house she told me was a hidden gem 8 months ago. You have 24 hours, she said. Sign the price reduction amendment or pay the invoice. So here I am. It's been 24 hours. I haven't signed anything yet. I'm sitting in the living room of the house that was supposed to pay for my wedding. I walk through the kitchen, the dated kitchen she hates now. I realize something. The house didn't change. The market didn't crash. I changed. I got greedy. I let a stranger talk me out of a safe, guaranteed profit because I wanted to feel like a big shot. I wanted to brag to my friends that I sold for record highs. And because of that vanity, I'm about to lose everything. Sarah and I are barely talking. We postponed the wedding. We can't afford it anymore. The wedding fund is currently being used to pay Brenda's ransom. I mean, the mortgage. If I pay the $26,000 invoice, I wipe out my emergency fund entirely. I'll have $0 to my name. If I sell at 455, I walk away with nothing, and I've wasted 5 years of investment. If I do nothing, she puts a lien on the house, and I can't sell it to anyone. I know what you guys are going to say. You're an idiot. You signed the contract. You got greedy. And you're right, I did. But I'm telling you this story so you don't make the same mistake. When an agent walks into your house and promises you the moon, ask to see the rocket ship. Ask for the data. Because if you let your ego drive the bus, you're going to drive it right off a cliff. And there will be someone like Brenda waiting at the bottom, holding an invoice for the wreckage. I think I'm going to fight her. I think I'd rather pay a lawyer 26 grand to destroy her than give her a dime. But I don't know if I have the fight left in me. What would you do? Would you take the loss and move on? Or would you burn it all down just to prove a point? Let me know. Because honestly, I'm lost.